The Culture Pop podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob and Ronnie.
Accident or injury, call Jacob and Ronnie. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mace. If you or a loved one is injured in any kind of accident, please don't wait. Call Jacob immediately for a free consultation. That's right, free. When an accident happens, it can turn your world upside down, so put the best on your side. Jacob doesn't even get paid unless you win. First name, first thought, first call, Jacob, Jacob, Jacob. After an accident, 24 hours a day, call 844-24-JACOB or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Welcome to the world of Culture Pop with Steve Mason and Sue Kalinsky. Culture, comedy, movies, TV, tech, authors, trends, pop. This is the Culture Pop Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 33 of the Culture Pop Podcast. It is awards season, so we're trying to bring you a taste of that with all kinds of filmmakers and actors, and we've had a really good run here.
These films have been amazing.
Yeah,
all of them.
They really have. One of my favorite movies of 2019 is the independent film The Mustang. It tells the story of Roman, a prison inmate who becomes involved in the Wild Horse inmate program and begins to come to terms with his life. The film is won at the Sundance Film Festival, the Satellite Awards, and now it's been nominated for 2 Independent Spirit Awards. Director Laure de Clermont-Tonnerre joins us.
No, my pleasure. Thank you for your time.
So you started your career as an actress. You worked with directors like Luc Besson and Julian Schnabel. What made you decide to step into the shoes of being a filmmaker?
So yes, it actually started when I was a child because my parents are film producers, and I was raised with this very cinema-driven family. So when I was a child, I actually loved being on set, and I was traveling with them, with my parents, and eventually I ended up acting in their films. When I was 5 years old was my first experience until I was actually a teenage, until I was 25 years old. So I really grew up loving cinema, talking about cinema, watching films. We had this family tradition to watch every Sunday night, an old film in black and white, whether it was a noir film or a French comedy, but it was, that was my education. So it's a virus that I got infected through my family. And then actually for me, it was an acting career until I realized that it was not the right shoes. And when I started to direct a play, I was 25 years old. It was 10 years ago. I realized that it was actually the right shoes, that I was much more comfortable being behind the camera and not being an actor anymore. And I feel like all those years were actually preparing myself to be a director.
You're drawn to this. I guess, probably the best thing to do for people that haven't seen the movie, what is the Wild Horse inmate program?
So this is a rehabilitation program that started in this prison in Nevada, I would say about 15 years ago. And it's about two things. It's first the overpopulation of wild Mustangs, especially in Nevada, but in the West mostly. So the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, decided to round them up and to eventually park them in prison so that they can create this program, Inmates and Horses, in order for the horses to be adopted. So obviously it's a mutual benefit for the horses who don't have a home. It cannot be free anymore, which is another issue. And for the inmates to be able to learn empathy through an animal and be able to take care of someone and eventually change their trajectory. Those programs are maybe happen in 8 prisons in America now.
How much experience did you have with horses before shooting this film?
I grew up riding horses, but obviously I was raised in Paris, so it was not very often that I could ride. I always loved horses. I was riding during the holidays as much as I could, but it was not something I could do all the time, unfortunately. So I actually reconnected with the horse, with this animal, when I was preparing the film, because it's very different. A domestic horse and a wild horse are so different. So I really enjoy observing and understanding what was the personality of this wild animal, and going to the wild and being able to observe them. And when we shot the roundup, which was pretty brutal, but also the portrait at the beginning of the film, I was fascinated by them. And it's about maybe 100,000 of them right now in the West.
Wow, it was there was some intense scenes with the wild horses in a small corral. As far as the actors, what kind of training did they have to go through to ride these horses?
Matthias Tonnerre didn't have experience with horses, but he was really eager to learn. So we met this Mustang whisperer. It's a man named Jim Hicks who lives in Utah, and he really connected Matthias for the first time with a Mustang, and telling him exactly to adapt himself to the energy of the animal and to connect with his emotions. Nothing aggressive, nothing brutal, nothing dominant. He really taught him how to behave with those horses, and he was training them himself. So that was the first steps for Matthias. And then the horse trainer who was working with us also taught Matthias to ride. And we didn't have that much time, but Matthias did really good. He was riding for 3 weeks every day. And he was riding his horse. The horse he was going to work with. So he had this connection already built when he arrived on set with the horse. And we had 3 identical horses. Only one was readable. The 2 other ones was for the stunt, and we had one completely wild for the first moments of the film.
This is a big decision to make your first feature film. What made this the story that you wanted to tell first in your career?
The decision to tell this story was pretty much a coincidence, because I read this article in a newspaper 6 years ago about animal therapy in prison, and it connected immediately with my themes. I grew up being obsessed by the prison world, trying to find a sense to the punishment. Why do we punish someone? What's the impact of punishment on someone? What's going on after the prison release? And I was watching a lot of documentary, and obviously I grew up loving animals too, and I still love them. So I felt that this subject was gathering 2 very interesting world that was so different, but very interesting to blend them together. The poetry of the animals and the very aggressive environment of a prison. So that was very instinctive. I read this article, I made research immediately, and through those research, it really led me to Nevada and to interviewing a lot of inmates, and to be able to understand my character and to understand my story.
Did you spend time with actual inmates and prison counselors to be able to research this kind of project?
Absolutely, yes. The first person that I actually met was this very close collaborator who is the head of the health department in the prison in Northern California. Her name is Kathleen O'Meara, and she introduced me to the prison world. She really helped me and support this project, and she knew exactly which man I was going to have conversation with and going to learn from. So she organized multiple visits, especially in San Quentin, Northern California, and also in Nevada. She loved this program. She was owning horses at the time, and she really wanted to bring this program in California. And now it is in California. And I think she was really eager to help and to provide, and to raise awareness about those programs. So she really was like one of the key person of this film.
You had the opportunity to shoot this film in a real prison, right?
Absolutely, yes. We went in this real prison in Carson City, Nevada, where they have this program, and obviously we couldn't shoot there for the whole shoot. It was impossible because it was an active prison, but we could do establishing shots and various shots. But there was this abandoned prison 5 minutes from the real prison, who were completely abandoned, and that was actually where we shot everything. We rebuilt the farm and all the pens, and that was actually our mini studio for the whole shoot, because we barely left this place. So that was really convenient to be there and to have all our equipment and all our horses there.
Bruce Dern was amazing in this film. Was he the person you had in mind when you were writing this movie?
I wrote this character for someone that was actually riding horses a little bit younger, and actually when I met with Bruce Dern, I felt there was so much powerful to have someone, an older man who absolutely cannot ride anymore, but wants to teach his passion from the ground. And I felt that Bruce Dern was really providing so much emotion and so much sense of humor. So it was not completely first for him, but very quickly I actually thought about him and thought that would be wonderful if Bruce Dern, because he was giving and adding so much flavor to this character. So yes, it actually happened pretty fastly.
You have said that your star, Matthias Schoenaerts, is kind of like a horse. He's my wild horse. What do you mean by that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, there was this great matching energy between the horse and Matthias. Matthias is a very instinctive personality. He has this range of emotions, and that penetrates him. And from 0 to 100, he can really express something so raw and so powerful. He has this agility and sensibility, and him and the horse together were like dancing. It was very physical. The body language is so important, and Matthias has that, and he has this energy, and he has the sensibility. So there was really matching. There was a very twinning partnership, which was wonderful, and it's exactly what I wanted, and it's exactly for those qualities that I thought Matthias would be wonderful.
One of the most moving parts of the film for me was when he finally connected with the horse and it came over and put its head on his shoulder. Was that just magical? Just a magical moment in filmmaking?
Yes, absolutely. It was written, and we had this choreography that we wanted to happen. But obviously between what's written and between what's happening, and especially for those moments where you can rehearse as much as you want, you're going to have happy accidents. And that was one of those beautiful, beautiful happy accidents, because it was exactly what we wanted. We wanted to have a graceful and surprising and magic moment where everything, where the horse were actually coming and forgive Matthias and finally connect. And he was an animal you never know. Even though he's trained, you never know. So that was one of those moments where we actually took the time. We had 2 cameras. We really wanted to capture this moment. We improvised. And at the end, we were so moved because we knew that it was going to work.
The horse was a really wonderful actor.
Yes, he's great. We actually adopted him with my producer, Molly Hallam. We kept the horse. He lives in Burbank now.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Wow. How difficult was it to shoot this movie? Because you've got these great big sweeping shots of the inmates riding the horses and the horses just running free. How difficult is it to capture that technically as a filmmaker?
Yes, it was. We had 23 days of shooting, so obviously it was a big challenge, and even if we had rehearsed in advance all the horses scene. Horses need time and need discipline. So it was a very, very aggressive schedule, and we got lucky that things worked pretty smoothly. But yes, we had obstacles. We had some days where we were not sure to make the days. We had all the storm scenes that I was so hard to put together. It was actually so much preparation in advance, so much time before to think about it. That shooting was just liberating our instincts. And I was lucky enough to have people so passionate about this story that they were ready to fight and ready to make it work. So that was, I feel like no one really remembers. It went so fast. No one had time to eat or to do anything else than just being on set. But yes, it was, we're glad that we finally made it.
At the Sorbonne, you studied something called poetic realism. What is that, and how did it play in the making of this film?
I feel that what I really wanted to do is to anchor the story and the authenticity of the location, of the program, with sometimes real people. We had 3 former inmates in the film, but I also wanted to create those poetic moments that was completely coming from my imagination, like the storm, by example. You don't put horses in the kitchen. That's not how you do it. But I thought it was very cinematic, and you don't escape a horse from an American prison. Also, I never heard about that, but I thought it was also poetic. So it's just to detach and to be able to shape my vision and to be able to add this poetic element that was more like a metaphorical element than a real element. But for me, that was part of the cinema that I wanted to support. And the poetic realism comes also from the French cinema of the 30s, where there's a reality of the story, but there's some elements in the filmmaking that are completely lyrical.
Yes.
So yes, I grew up with those films, and I feel that it definitely fed my imagination. And my vision.
People who have been around the business know it's very difficult to get a film project off the ground. This was your first feature. You're a woman filmmaker in a business where there are very few women who are successfully making films. How did it all happen for you?
It was such an adventure. I mean, it took 5 years. So, but first feature film generally take that much time, and my big luck was after the first draft to be able to be selected at Sundance Institute, because Sundance Institute provides for you so much support and so much help and so much connections. So as soon as I landed there, I knew that I was supported by this creative family that actually was going to hold my hand until the film was released. So that, and again, it's not a guarantee that you're going to make your film. Unfortunately, I have a lot of friends that never made their films yet, but it's definitely, as a foreigner, to be able to have, this nest that was going to help me was already like huge for me. So they really helped. They really, and especially also Robert Redford, who personally decided to godfather the film. He was very connected to this program that he knew very well. He adopted himself Mustangs from the Utah prison. So he definitely supported so much the film. And after that, I found a French producer who actually was established in Los Angeles. And he's production company helped to finance the film, and we ended up having Focus Features. But for years, between like the first finances we had from Europe until we ended up having Focus Features adding their money, we had this moment that we knew that we needed more, and we couldn't do the film for what we had. So it was this moment of like a real, doubt. And finally Focus Features came on board, which was such a big surprise and unexpected, and we were lucky. And so we knew at that point that, yes, we were now ready to make the film. And still after that, we had multiple problems, and we finally ended up shooting in 2017, and everything started in 2014. Yeah.
You are nominated for Best First Feature at the Independent Spirit Awards. Are you excited for that night? And have you thought about what it would mean to win?
I mean, it's such winning for already to be there. It's for me a big, big honor. Obviously, winning for a first-time film, it's such a huge encouragement, because you're such a vulnerable place when you make your first feature film. It's such big and very, very hard adventure when you never know if you're going to make it, actually. So once you make it, and then you have those nominations that encourage you to keep going, it's huge. It's a gift. So now I feel I know that I can eventually make a second feature film, which I'm trying to write right now.
Well, listen, congratulations. It's one of my very favorite movies of 2019. It is streaming now on Amazon Prime and YouTube and Hulu, and I could not recommend a movie more strongly. Laure, congratulations on you, and we wish you a great night at the Independent Spirit Awards.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Sue, I do make up a list of my, last year I saw 70 movies in theaters over the course of the year.
I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, it's...
What are you? It's like intravenous? Do you watch them in your sleep?
I'm an absolute junkie. Absolute junkie. So I got to see the Mustang on a big screen when it first came out back early in the year, and I put out my list of my 10 favorite movies of 2019, and the Mustang was one of them.
Yeah, well, you were the one who told me about it. I'd never heard of it.
It's a beautiful, beautiful movie to look at, and an amazing story, and a real life program. And you can understand how inmates who are essentially breaking or taming a horse simultaneously become more tame, or at least gain a better understanding of who they are and what they've done in their lives. That's really at the core of what this movie's about.
Right, and you really saw the turn. I mean, I've seen it with dogs.
Yeah.
I've seen programs like that, and how heartbreaking it is when the dog leaves because they're so attached to it.
Sure.
And you saw it in this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So strongly recommend The Mustang. It is streaming now. YouTube, Amazon Prime, Hulu. Definitely check it out. Thanks very much for listening to the Culture Pop Podcast, and Sue, we'll see you next time.
All righty.